Alright. So we're gonna get this started in 3, 2, 1, and go. So yeah, he's picking Cyrax. The reason for picking Cyrax is he's a pretty commonly used character in this. He's actually pretty effective for speedrunning in this version of the game. In Ultimate, you'd use Smoke for pretty similar reasons, but Cyrax is like the character of choice for MK3. There's a couple of reasons for that. The nice thing about MK3 and what makes this and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 such a unique speedrun as far as fighting games go is that there's a lot of different strategies you can actually use. Once he gets the ball rolling, you'll see what he's doing. So the main thing he's going to be trying to do is set up like an AI trap where he uses the net to initiate doing damage. So, like I said, the AI can be manipulated pretty easily. If you're not careful, though, it can just completely obliterate you, at close range especially. So there is a little bit of luck and cooperation, because sometimes the AI won't do exactly what you need to. But the net's going to be like pretty much the go-to tool for Cyrax during this run. It's going to allow Bakuman to set up damage. There is an interesting strat you could do with the net setups where you can basically jail the opponent and constantly punch them to death without them being able to react. That's a little bit tricky to do. I don't think Bakuman's going to go for it, but his main thing is he's just going to be setting up a loop where the enemy's going to block, he's going to sweep them and force them to move forward, and then he's going to continue to just do damage. Kano's kind of a troll because he has the Kano Ball, which is a ridiculously annoying move sometimes. But yes, he also uses Cyrax because Cyrax is also Bakuman's favorite character, which is fine because he is a really cool character. Alright, as far as like the intricacies between which character you're fighting in the actual like character fights where you're fighting the playable roster characters, there's not too much that's different between each fight. There's like little things to know depending on matchup, and if I see that depending on who he fights, I'll make sure to mention that. But yeah, as you can see, as long as he gets the net spacing set up correctly, he can effectively take out all these opponents pretty easily. Like I said, the AI is as unforgiving as it can be if you've played the game casually. It's pretty easy to manipulate. But again, there's also the chance that it could just not cooperate with you. And there we go. That's another opponent down.
Round 1.
So one other thing we got coming up here is Sub-Zero. This is a very different looking Sub-Zero than what you probably are used to. So if you're not familiar with MK lore, that Sub-Zero is actually Sub-Zero's brother, the Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat 1. That character is Bihan. This character is Kuai Liang. There's your MK lore for the bit. Canonically, across every timeline in Mortal Kombat, Sub-Zero dies in the first tournament to Scorpion. And so Kuai Liang takes up the mantle. He's taking up the mantle pretty good right now. As you can see, it just takes like one bad thing to happen against this opponent for him to get the ball rolling. The ice in particular is kind of annoying to deal with against the AI if you don't get your AI loops going. Because Sub-Zero's dial combo he does is pretty strong. That's one mechanical thing I should mention about the game. I guess I can spend some time explaining the mechanics of MK3. So, this game introduced a combo system where if you mash in a combo sequence fast enough, you will, as the name implies, do a combo. And that's kind of like one of the core gameplay elements of MK3 that separates it from the previous two games. And it's something that would kind of sort of translate to other MK games afterwards, it just interpreted differently. So here we have Nightwolf. Nightwolf's a pretty cool character. You won't really get to see what kind of annoying things Nightwolf can do when you're fighting against him as an AI. He has a really fast projectile, which is kind of obnoxious, but he has a move in particular, which is his axe. That thing is deceptively good. And also, if you play Mortal Kombat in like a serious setting, like a competitive setting. Nightwolf's pretty good too because he has incredible rushdown. The downside to Cyrax, unfortunately, oh, there's the axe. The downside to Cyrax is that he's a cool character, but in Mortal Kombat 3, and specifically more so Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, he's just not that great of a character because his toolset is very gimmicky. We got Jax here too. Jax has that move right there, which is fairly easy to beat out if you just jump backwards and kick. Because a lot of times he's just going to do that. So one AI manipulation that does exist a lot of times is that if you jump backwards and do a kick, every character will be programmed to throw out a projectile. I don't know if that's something that exists in Super Nintendo, but it does exist in arcade. And it's one of the easiest AI manipulations to do in the game because every character in this roster has a projectile attack that they will use. But yeah, Bakuman's just, like I said, continuing to do it. He also is doing jump-ins, which is another good way to get the net going. Because a lot of times when you do stuff like that, the enemy's AI instinct is to just run forward and do something. One thing you don't want to try to do against an AI is throw them, though, because for whatever reason, their throw is like the counter to you throwing, and theirs is almost always going to have priority over you. So this next opponent he's fighting is Striker. Striker is kind of goofy, looks like a mall cop, but he's also really fun to play in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, because in Ultimate they gave him a gun. In this game he's pretty basic, doesn't really have particularly good tools. He's a pretty mediocre character. But in Ultimate they gave him a gun, and that bumped him up several places on the tier list. And one thing about MK3 is that a lot of characters have combos that launch. Those are really good dial combos because they set up for pretty much a good chunk of most high damage combos. And yeah, so there he goes. Winning again. What a champion. The road to Mortal Kombat is looking pretty free right now. So we have the other robot here, Sector. Sector's got a teleport punch, which is something that can, like that move right there, yeah. It's something that can be a little bit annoying to deal with. The weird thing with the teleport punches for the robots, for Sector in particular, and Smoke in Ultimate is, the hitbox on it is deceptive. It's just really weird. It will sometimes hit opponents in the air and sometimes just completely miss. But considering that Cyrax is not going to be really using projectile attacks in situations where a Sector is going to teleport punch, you don't really have to worry about that. Also, you might be wondering, you know, why isn't he doing fatalities? And that's just because it takes up time. This is a speedrun. You would think that, Nick, but the thing is, like, juggle combos aren't easy to set up. Especially, in MK3, like, Cyrax is the better choice. If you play optimally, a lot of times, juggle combos are not going to be used in speedruns. Just for example, in MK3, the main combo you do with Smoke is either doing a teleport punch into an air grab, which does a third of your health, or you do a punch jailing strat, which will jail the opponent with jabs until they die. So it's not necessarily as much about damage as much as it is getting hits in as quick as possible to just do as much damage as quickly as you can, rather than necessarily doing a combo. Also, that was unfortunate. So one thing with this character, Shiva, is that she has that move where she jumps up and stomps you. That is kind of an instinctive thing she can do against sweeps, and it will practically always beat out a sweep attack.
Round one. Fight.
Trying to think of some other important stuff to mention here about MK3 as a whole. It is a really cool run. Like I said, there's a lot of different ways you can do stuff. Like I said, MK3 isn't necessarily quite as popular as Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 because that's, I guess, the more definitive experience from Mortal Kombat 3. Alright, that was close. Nice. But like, there's still pretty general strats across the board. Like I said, there is a strat with Cyrax where you can jail them with punches. The way it works is you set up a punch and then do a rhythmic press of the punches, like high punch. And if you do it the right rhythm, the opponent will not be able to counterattack you or escape it. It's not a true combo, it's, like I said, more of just a trap than anything. The other thing that's scary about Shiva is if she gets her combos going, she has one of the highest damage dial combos in the game. Just on its own, that's not like combined with anything else. So Shiva, even though she's considered one of the worst characters in the game, can still dish out a ton of damage if you're not careful. Oh, so one other thing I forgot to mention. Bakuman's gonna kill me for not mentioning this earlier. There's no option to pause the game in this game. There's no pause button. Apparently in this game, the pause feature is accessed by a cheat, rather than just being a base game option, which I think is kind of interesting. Alright, so we got Cabal here. Anybody who's familiar with Mortal Kombat 3 knows that Cabal sure is a character. This character, I think, is pretty top tier in every game he's been in, except for maybe Mortal Kombat 11, but game's garbage, so... yes, Cabal is scary if you use him correctly, like in the right hands. In the AI, as you can see, he's easy to cheese out if you know the AI, but like, as far as what this character can do, the damage and combos Cabal's capable of under the right hands is absolutely menacing.
Round 1. Fight.
Alright, so now we're going on to the last, like, normal fight, which is Sindel. Sindel is a pretty boring character. She has some really gimmicky stuff, but, like, she's also really good because she has really easy launch combos for damage. She also, like Cyrax, has a really good jab, which allows you to jail pretty easily. In speedruns, a lot of times, in MK3 Vanilla, Cyrax is the character to go to, but in Ultimate, a lot of people will use Smoke, or some people will also use Sindel to do the jailing strat. There's a lot of really cool mechanics in Mortal Kombat 3. I could go on talking about that, but I don't think we have enough time for that. If you guys are ever interested in learning how to play Mortal Kombat 3, it takes like 10 minutes to learn the basics of the game. So now we're going on to something important. This is the first boss fight. There's 2 of them. This boss fight is Motaro, and admittedly I think Mortal Kombat 3's bosses are pretty easy by comparison to the previous 2 games. Motaro's thing is that he is extremely random, and it's very hard to get something going against him. Bakuman's going to be playing pretty conservatively just by doing jump kicks. It's like the easiest way to do stuff to him. The problem with Motaro is that move right there where he grabs you. If you whiff something or just mistime something, he's almost instinctively always going to do that, and it makes it very, very easy to make a mistake. However, that was a pretty good round. And sometimes if you get lucky, you can pretty easily loop attacks. Also, if Motaro gets stuck in the corner, you can basically punch him to death, and he can't do anything. But yeah, there's the grab. The grab and the projectiles are pretty bad, because the projectiles he can throw multiple ones out, and that'll just eat your life bar. But like, you know, it's honestly, like I said, this boss isn't the hardest to beat just casually if you just go in on him, but he can be very random.
Cyrax wins.
No, it's after Shao Kahn. So yeah, and the other thing that he can't do against Motaro is Motaro has a native function where he will deflect projectile attacks, so if he used the net it would deflect and he would get destroyed by it. So now we're on the final boss, Shao Kahn. Shao Kahn is an interesting final boss because he has a lot of attacks that are really, really high damage. There's still a little bit of luck with this boss. There's ways you can manipulate him. I don't know how different it is with Cyrax in MK3. In Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, you would be doing this fight as Human Smoke and be able to just uppercut him and jail him with a spear pretty much infinitely. There is like certain times he will do specific things. Sometimes he'll throw out taunts, which is really nice because he won't attack you. But the big thing to watch out for is his hammer, because that'll stun you. Yeah, MK2 Arcade's really hard. The speedrun for it's really stupid, though. I'd say Mortal Kombat 3, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 and MK1 are probably the most interesting MK speedruns. So hopefully we'll win this round and the time will be coming up. Oh man, he's got a good loop going here. This is great. Alright. This is exactly the kind of thing you want to have happen with Shao Kahn. Alright, and that's time. So yeah. There's a lot to talk about. Obviously, there's more I could have talked about, but MK3 is a pretty cool run. It's not terribly hard to learn. There are some nuances you got to get used to, and Bakuman did a pretty good job for the most part. I mean, there was like maybe one game over there that was pretty nice. It's really hard to get a run where everything goes the way you want it to, so now he is the MK3 champion. So on a closing note, this is from Bakuman himself. He wanted to make sure to mention that today, Mortal Kombat name has remained stronger since the MK2 era, although for him, he still prefers MK3 for combos, and this game inspired many fighting games, and I think that's true. I think this probably set the groundwork for a lot of things for the other Mortal Kombat games. It introduced some cool characters, some cool ideas, and it's just an overall really fast-paced and fun game. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Check out Bakuman. He runs a lot of other games. He's actually like an insane amount of games. Hopefully you enjoyed the commentary as well. Hopefully it was insightful. And yeah, I'm Ripchip. That was Bakuman84. And yeah, enjoy the rest of Valuethon. Shoutouts to Richard DeVizio.